Oh, have I got a story. See this rod and reel and line, my beloved guideline, let's see, 13.7, 8.9 weight. Hardy Bouglé, custom tied Timmy fly. Well, this morning, I'm casting the Gale Force 54 equalizer I chopped into a head, and it's just stunning on this rod. About my fourth cast of the day. First of all, we've been here this is our fourth day, and we've been fishing our brains out. We've been floating, we've been driving, we've been fishing, nothing. Finally, like my fourth or fifth cast, was still just barely light enough to be legal. I hooked this fish, and lo and behold, it's a steelhead. All right, like third or fourth cast. This is just proof that I actually have hooked a fish. In case he pops off. I just wanted proof that there's actually steelhead in this river. And I landed it. Kind of, back walked over to the beach a little bit. Landed it. And got it to hand. And it kind of flipped out of my hands when I was gonna pop the hook out. And swam off, and I thought, no sweat. I'll just grab it again. And then I didn't see it. And then when I reached down for my rod, I realized I wasn't reaching for my rod. It was my wading staff. And my rod and reel and Gale Force line were gone. Just gone. I fished the run several times. So after my buddy spent his whole morning trying to find my rod, I was like, screw it, I'm gonna go get my pontoon. I'm gonna come back, I'm gonna grab the foot pegs, I'm gonna have him row, I'm gonna stick my head underwater and try to find that stupid rod, which I love this rod more than any rod I have ever had for whatever reason. It's just a fabulous little Scandi rod. So anyway, I headed back up to camp. And I passed this truck on the road. And on this rack, like a lumber rack, I saw a grip, the upper grip of what looked to be a guideline they see. And I drove by and I thought, you know what, I better stop and back up and just check it out. So I stopped and I backed up and I got out and I looked for the guy, nobody around. And I look at the rod, the reel is a Bouglé. The fly is the fly I caught that fish on. And I was dumbfounded. And I knew it was my rod and reel, and so I started walking up and down the road looking for the guy. I didn't see him, but I saw a guy that crossed across the river. And he had and I just hollered at him, hey, is this yours? He said, yeah, I found it this morning. It was hooked to a hatchery fish. So somewhere this fish swam off and there was nobody above me or below me. It was like, I don't know where he found it. But anyway, my rod, he said, was hooked to a hatchery fish. And I said, thank you so much. And he said, don't worry, it's the only fish I've touched all day because it has been really slow. So I got my rod back, I got my reel back, and I just am shocked. It's like a Jedi miracle. Anyway, I can't wait to tell Trey. So thank you guys for your support. And to the guy, thank you so much, brother. That means so much to me. I love this setup so much. It's my favorite rod ever. My favorite reel for tactile feelings. I love the line on it. Even my friends that don't like this rod love it with this line on it. So I'm glad to have it back. I'm glad I hooked a fish. I'm glad I didn't, totally lose my mind And thank you, brother, for returning my rod and reel back. And all right, guys, here's an update on the lost rod and reel that this nice fella found. Doing a review of my next video. And basically, I hooked the fish above the grumpy shack, above the shack. And the guy who found it was fishing in the middle of pipeline. So it was minimum a mile and a half that this fish swam downstream with my rod in tow. And he was a lazy fish to fight. I wasn't that impressed, but he swam downstream through rapids and boulder yards and riffles. And anyway, my hat's off to this fish. But that is a long, long way. And he covered that in the whole time I was looking for my rod. That fish was swimming with it, and it ended up so far downstream, and this guy just happened to see the rod. The cork was floating, and the fish was basically, as he tells it, it was swimming next to it. So he released the fish, and he found the rod, and that was what happened. So that was a long way for a fish to travel hooked to a rod and reel. But fortunately, he saved all of his energy in the fight so he could get off with my rod. So anyway, happy to have it back. And I'm really happy that a nice, honest guy found it.